Welcome back to day one of the 2021 Supply Chain Conference and this afternoon's session. Let's waste no time and get on with proceedings. Up first this afternoon, we have Marie Paternostre, account manager at Wakeo. Marie graduated from the EDHEC Business School and Rotterdam School of Management. She joined Wakeo 3 years ago as a business developer and now works as an account manager with a focus on medical, pharmaceutical and humanitarian companies. She notably works with leading international companies like B. Braun and the IDA Foundation. Now, international logistics has grown exponentially and has been through outstanding transformations, but logistics information flows have struggled to keep pace. Today, they still rely on siloed data, legacy systems, and inefficient processes. Wakeo's goal is to fix this lack of visibility and to turn supply chain from a cost center into a unique competitive edge for global leading companies. As we have touched upon already today, the past 15 months in particular have exposed many of the vulnerabilities in the global supply chain, especially in the retail industry, where disruptions and delays can prove incredibly costly. We know that the retail industry relies on providing customers with accurate delivery times and transport visibility. So Marie will address, why are we not providing the same level of service to our supply chains? Wakeo allows clients to have real-time visibility and to make smarter decisions faster. Delays are to be expected, but that doesn't mean that you can't arm yourselves with the tools that will allow you to mitigate these disruptions. In this presentation, Marie will take a close look at how Wakeo is helping its retail clients to save time, money, and resources, and to take full control of their global supply chain. And with that, it's over to you, Marie, for your presentation entitled How Real-Time Visibility Can Help You to Save Time, Money, and Improve Your Supply Chain. Okay.
Great. Thank you very much for the introduction, Nick. I will now share my screen to start this presentation. So first of all, I'm very pleased to be attending this digital supply chain event. And hopefully, I hope that over the next year, we will be able to meet in person. Well, today, the topic is to give you a bit more insights on how real-time visibility can help save you time, money, and improve the supply chain. So before going right into it, I will briefly introduce myself. As Nick mentioned it, my name is Marie Paternostre and I'm an account manager at Wakeo. I've joined the company now 3 years ago, and my role is mainly to understand the challenges and needs of the customer when it comes to overseas transportation visibility, but more importantly, to explain how Wakeo digital solution can help better organize the operations and improve the customer satisfaction in the end. So very briefly, Wakeo is a SaaS platform that brings real-time visibility on the overseas shipments and on multimodal shipments, which means that we really bring tracking on the sea, the air, and the road freight. Well, to start with, I think that it's something that we've all experienced over the past months and even past year. We faced unprecedented disruptions on the international supply chains. That include notably the fact that there were skyrocketing pricing on containers, also some issues on capacity, but also a lot of delays and much more delays that it used to have before. Concretely, since the beginning of the year, we noticed that almost 50% of the vessels have been delayed. 1 year ago, it was 1 vessel out of 3 or out of 4, which is already big and significant. So delays are an issue. It's not new, but also what we noticed on top of that is that the average delay is higher. It's up to 4 or 5 days. And I was just talking about this with also a retailer 2 weeks ago who mentioned to me that currently 1 out of 4 vessels has at least 10 days of delay, and it can have a significant impact. on operational coordination internally, but also for customer satisfaction, because the risk for shortages is a lot higher. And to give also a very concrete testimony from a retail client, he shared to us lately that almost 30% of the goods don't arrive on the exact day that was planned. So in this regard, it's important to ask if there is enough visibility to be able to deal with these delays that are more frequent and that are higher, so that will most probably impact your supply chain and in the end, your sales. And well, it's all the more critical that disruption is currently the new normal. Of course, it started with the pandemic, COVID-19. We had more recently the Suez Canal blockade. There are the port congestion, and notably currently at Yantian. And so we can see that disruption are here, and we can even identify that they might already impact the Christmas season. So in this regard, it's really means that the question is not really, will your shipments be delayed? Because of course there is a high probability that they will in some extent, but it's rather, is your supply chain prepared to deal with this disruption and to have the agility to proactively react to them and limit as much as possible the impact. So at Wakeo, we really believe that the visibility, real-time visibility and anticipation can be a key competitive advantage to have a more agile supply chain, to optimize internal coordination, operations, and in the end, to better serve the customers and improve their satisfaction. So as I mentioned it previously, we provide a digital solution that is here to provide accurate and dynamic ETAs that helps the team to take corrective actions when it's still possible in order to secure the supplies, and also to notify proactively local teams so they can be better prepared and they can also smooth operation until the final destination. So to give you a bit more context on the companies we are working with, we work with a lot of shippers in very different sectors. It can be in the automotive environment with Faurecia, for instance, but also in the industrial gas with Air Liquide, or the medical industry with Bibron, based in Germany. And of course, and I think that will be also of interest for you, we work with big retailers and big leading international companies in this sector. I'm sure that you are familiar with Uniqlo, which is part of the fast retailing group. It's an international leading company who has a network of stores, over 2,000 different stores all over the world. So it's an international and complex supply chain. And they really had in mind the fact that digitalization of the supply chain can be a key differentiator and a source of competitiveness for them to be able to always provide as much as possible the right quantities at the right time, at the right place to maximize the sales. And also because as retailers, they have some specific challenges, which is that there is a high seasonality of the goods. Of course, on the clothing, there are more and more fashionable collection, ephemera collection with a shorter lifespan. But also in furniture, for instance, there is the gardening season, and you really need to be able to secure the shipments so they arrive at the right time, so you maximize the in-store availability. And also there is a need to be able to manage the stocks in an optimal way with an understanding of the transit times, which is not always an easy thing by the current times. So that's also why they choose to leverage on a technology like Wakeo that can really bring this anticipation. So now more concretely, how do we help? First, by providing a predictive tracking. So how does it work? We consolidate transport orders information that comes either from the freight forwarder system or from our customers' systems. But beyond the consolidation, what is really important is that we enrich the information to make it more reliable. Here you can see on the right of the screen all the different data sources that we leverage to provide a lot of accuracy and fresh information. It notably includes the shipping lines and airline system that really help us to catch any kind of update in a change of vessel compared to the booking or an unplanned transshipment or change of port of discharge. And to be able to challenge and cross it with information that is provided by also the logistics providers. We also leverage port and airport operator system information. And most importantly, we also leverage external and independent data that are the satellite data, AIS for the sea, ADSB for the air, and that gives the geolocation of the vessel or the plane. So it really helps to anticipate the deviation as soon as they occur. And it was very relevant, notably for the Suez blockage canal, because thanks to that, we were really able in real time to know which vessel were rerouted by the Cape of Good Hope and take it into account thanks to data science and geofencing algorithm to recalculate dynamically the ETA and share it in real time to all the teams that needed information. So here is really how we provide this anticipation and accuracy in the ETAs. What I propose is just to share a more concrete and contextual example with some screenshot of the solution, where here you can really see a bit how it looks like. So here it's a shipment from Asia to Europe, where you can see that there is a big delay compared to what was initially planned, with 18 days of delay. So it's significant, so it's important to be able to anticipate it, and also to know if it's beyond the container itself, what kind of goods will be impacted. Here you can see on the right that we can share the information on the product type to show that it's concerning an ephemeral collection. So it's very critical to have it on time. And what is interesting here is that this delay that is important, we were able to notify it a lot in advance compared to what was planned. We were able, and you can see it on the right, on the top, second line, that we were able to notify this ETA change more than 2 weeks before the ETA that was initially planned. And it's very important because it gives a lot of anticipation to take strategic decision and take corrective actions when it's possible. In this specific case, for instance, it helped to reorganize supply from a closer location or from other stores that had some inventories on the goods. It also helps, for instance, to organize a backup transport in air freight, for instance. And as you can anticipate it 2 weeks in advance, it would be a lot cheaper than if you would have known this information at the last minute. So here, beyond the accuracy, the anticipation is also key to provide enough time to limit the impact and the cost that this kind of issue might have. And as we mentioned it before, these delays are more and more frequent and they can be very high. So in the end, the goal is really to have the key to take the best decision to ensure the in-store availability and customer satisfaction, and the sales. We also provide alerts that are very important to be able to share the information internally. Here you have an example of an alert with this huge delay compared to what was initially planned. And it was also, it's also very interesting because thanks to anticipation, you can better synchronize with other departments than the supply chain. Of course, it's very important for transport and supply chain, but in retail, you also need to coordinate with the marketing, with the merchandising for the commercial operations. And thanks to Wakeo Anticipation, one of our retailer customer was able to anticipate a delay in the supply of a blue pullover that was supposed to be highlighted by a commercial action. And since they were able to identify this delay with 2 weeks in advance, they could postpone the launch of the promotional action. So in the end, it was helpful to prevent any disorganization in the stores and unsatisfaction from the customer who would have received promotional content for a product that in the end wouldn't have been available. So that's also a very interesting way to show that anticipated alerts can be shared internally, and also helps to really focus on management per exception and on the shipments that are more likely to negatively impact your operations. And last but not least, the solution is also helping our retailer customers with the analytics module that is very important and strategic because it helps to have monitoring of the transport performance. What is interesting is that Wakeo is not a transport provider, so we are 100% neutral, and we act like a trusted third party to provide accurate and reliable KPIs. In this regard, I would like to focus on 3 main points. The first is that we help to objectify service level of the different transport providers and also per route to help better identify recurring deviation, dependencies, and help to take action to secure the routes when possible, but also to have visibility on the evolution of the transit times over time. Because to give a concrete example, we have customers who negotiate contractual agreements with the transport providers once a year, and then they don't really monitor evolution of this transit time. For instance, I think about this customer who negotiated a contractual agreement from Asia to Europe of 29 days. And thanks to Wakeo, they realized that each time it was in fact 40 days of transit time. So in fact, they were each time in emergency situation. They had to plan stock buffers to prevent shortages, but it was mainly because they did not have the good reference in the planification process. So in the end, Wakeo helps to have a more comprehensive understanding of that, to optimize also stock management accordingly. Another important point is also that we help to anticipate the workload at warehouses for the reception, thanks to the dashboard that you can see here on the left, that helps to see per week the number of containers, but also number of packages, volume, weight, so you can really plan in a more efficient way the human resources, but also storage capacities. And it's very important because it can help to make up for 1 or 2 days of delay by having a very smooth reception at warehouses, and then to be able to more efficiently also provide the right goods in the right stores at the right time. And in the end, of course, it helps to optimize the sales. And the last point here of the analytics is also on a more cost dimension, where we have a strong focus on the demurrage and detention monitoring, because it's a huge pain point today, also a big black box for most of the customer. So we really help to have more transparency on the days that are spent at port and the difference between free time and what is happening, to have a clear visibility on the extra days and extra fees. So it really helps first to know how many extra fees I have on these costs, but also with dashboards in real time to be able to prioritize some containers for pickup because they have already a lot of extra costs on this one. So it helps to make operation also more efficient in this regard. So to conclude with some key messages on the added value that a solution like Wakeo can bring to the retail industry and companies. Well, first, what is important is anticipation and proactive management. It helps to have better control on the supply chain, to better react in case of disruption, and to secure the supply in stores in the end, and also the sales and availability for the customers. It also helps to improve the coordination internally within the different departments and with the local teams at warehouses. And in the end, it helps to implement scalable processes and share information faster among the different business units. And the other part is also supply chain optimization, thanks to anticipation and analytics, to reduce and minimize the extra cost of non-performance, last-minute backup, demurrage and detention, and also to have a better understanding of the transport performance, which is very useful to optimize also in-transit inventories and inventory buffer. And finally, and I would conclude at that, we want to go one step further also to be a partner in sustainable initiatives of our customers, because it's becoming more and more strategic. Customers are more and more demanding in this regard. So we also deployed a calculator that provides a standardized and multimodal calculation on the transport emission and carbon footprint linked to transport. So I think that on that I will finish, and of course, I will be very happy to answer any question that you might have.
Marie, thank you very much for that presentation of the Wakeo software. I'm sure our viewers have taken a lot from that. Actually, you mentioned the CO2 calculator at the end there. It's an interesting point in terms of sustainability and emissions targets, etc. I mean, what are you actually measuring with that?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. So as I said, today we have an expertise on the transport visibility, but we believe that this expertise is very useful then to have an understanding of the transport emissions. What we measure today is the carbon emissions that are linked to the transport, so multimodal, sea, air, and road, but not only carbon emissions, because we also take into account all the polluting gas that might be produced either from the production of the fuel, but also during the transport. So it's really wheel to tank that we take into account in this calculation. And the goal is really to have to take also a lot of criteria into account, the transport mode, for instance, but also the type of vessel, aircraft that is used, the type of fuel, the weight, and the distance that we can obviously measure very accurately thanks to Wakeo.
Excellent. You mentioned the Suez blockage there. I mean, in some cases, obviously, you can reroute parts of a shipment, but I guess it's just about managing expectations, isn't it, with the software in that regard for planning and different departments?
Yeah, of course, it was extraordinary event. And the difference that was brought by Wakeo was to be able in real time to notify customers how many containers were impacted, what goods were inside, was it critical, or was it do they have a bit more flexibility on this kind of goods, but also to be able to see which one were blocked and which one were rerouted, because when they were rerouted, we were able to recalculate the new ETA, that it would be a 9 days of delays compared to what was planned. But also we were able to identify the one that was first rerouting and then back to the Suez Canal after the reopening. So what was interesting in this case is thanks to the different information sources we had, we were able to share the freshest information available, even if it was a very complicated and complex situation for everybody because it was so unexpected.
I've got a couple of integration questions here. How long does it take to integrate the software into a platform?
Well, it's what is interesting with Wakeo is that we are an agile company that can deploy the solution in a short period of time compared to some ERP TMS, for instance, projects that are taking several years most of the time. Wakeo, just to make it clear, we provide a SaaS platform, but we also have a set of API that helps to share information and collect information from existing system. So basically, it really depends on the architecture, on where we need to collect information, if there are some different system from freight forwarders, or if we only connect to one system of the shipper. But to give a rough idea, it's usually between 4 to 6 weeks of integration. So it can be very fast and it can help very quickly to have benefits from this kind of technologies.
You mentioned TMS and ERP there. I mean, can you push information from those existing systems?
Yeah, totally. And that is also what is very interesting about Wakeo, because the platform is a very nice tool, user-friendly, but the core value of the tool is the enriched information, enriched ETAs that we are able to calculate, and also the actual transit times that we can measure. And this information, we can totally push them back into TMS or ERP system. We are a partner of SAP, for instance, but then we can integrate to any kind of system, of course. And it's really helpful because one of the customers, they have Wakeo dynamic ETAs directly into the ERP, SAP, so they can link it at the purchase order level. And this way they have dynamic stock replenishment dates. So it really also helps to more widely benefit from the solution. And it's both way around. So we can push back information, but also we can collect information from the ERP, from the TMS to catch, for instance, the transport orders automatically.
And you mentioned, I think, in the presentation, the other departments within an organization. Can they have access to this, the internal teams? Can they have access to this data as well to give them visibility for their operations?
Yes, totally. There are different options. For the platform itself, there are several users that can have access, and we can also customize the access depending on the scope of activities, regions, customers. We can also share with a shareable link punctually to some of the collaborators. So they don't need to have an account. They can just receive some specific shipments. And also, if we push back into the existing systems, all the people who have access to the existing systems can benefit from the information.
And what about transshipment information? Can you catch that as well?
Yes, of course, and that's the point of the solution, because they are likely to impact the final ETAs. So we do catch this information thanks to shipping lines information and also terminals, port terminals information. So we can really catch also unplanned transshipments and all the transshipments that occur along the shipment.
Excellent. Marie, thank you very much for that. It's, visibility, especially with what's been going on in the past year, it couldn't be more important. Thank you.